Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Scott Luton, Greg White with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Gregory, how we doing?
Doing great. I love that you do that now,
Ah,
right? I mean, we're global,
yeah,
universal, maybe.
yeah, maybe so. Maybe we're sharing some best supply chain practices to folks in different parts of the solar system. You never know. Supply chain is pretty popular these days, right?
We're about to know, aren't we, when they get that new, what is it called? John
It is.
Wells,
It is the
AW.
yes. You're talking about the John. It's the Webb telescope, and it's
Yes,
in
John
place.
Webb. That's it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think you're right, and we should be seeing images from that in just a couple months. That should change fundamentally our entire understanding of the universe. So we're looking forward to that, and hope we don't find anything that we don't want to see. Greg, we'll
right.
see.
Well, we'll see where we came from. They said, because it's going to be imaging things that happened as much as 13.5 billion years ago because of the
Wow.
speed of light, right? So, I mean, we may see back to the Big Bang. Depends
Yep.
on how accurate everybody is in terms of estimating how old the universe is.
Yes. James Webb Space Telescope. That's the official
That's it.
answer. I just
There you go.
someone from NASA
I
was
know
not
you're
happy.
excited about that. And that's
Yes.
almost as exciting as what we're going to talk about today.
Well, that's a great segue. I'm going to take a second stab at it because you said Big Bang. Well, folks, we got a big home run show today as we're
Ooh,
going to be talking about becoming, Greg, a data driven super competitor to navigate all these global supply chain hurdles and to become not only more successful, but more sustainable. They're almost inseparable these days, right, Greg?
they are. You're right. I mean, assurance, sustainability, fair trade, accurate pricing, all of that stuff is really so interconnected with all the enterprise data that exists out there and how to do something with it.
Right. So to help us with that discussion, we're going to bring in the James Webb of supply chain. It's Caleb Nelson with Sifted. So
Ooh,
buckle up, buckle up, and get ready because we want to hear from you too. Hey, we're going to say hello to a bunch of folks that are already logging in. Let us know, folks, where you are tuned in from. We'd love to make that connection. But quick program note before we get started here today. Greg, coming up on May 18th, it is the 2022 Supply Chain and Procurement Awards. Registration's open. We've had over 100 nominations. We've got some a lot of tough judging exercises
yes.
and decisions to make. But folks, join us. Join us for free. You can learn more at supplychainprocurementawards.com, and you can register for the 2-hour virtual event, especially on LinkedIn, where Greg, over 1,000 people have already joined us, and we're still a month and a couple days away.
That's right. Have we elected a chief justice among our judges for
That's a
this?
that's a great question. We're gonna have to jump on that, Greg. Thank you for being the parliamentarian
You're
of the awards.
always here to serve. But I mean, it's not just a recognition for companies around the world who are doing great things. It's a fundraiser for company, a nonprofit that is doing great things to stop human trafficking and slavery. So
That's right. And Greg's talking about our friends at Hope for Justice. So a lot of good stuff going on there. Celebrating with purpose. That's the best way to do it. Okay, so folks, join us. That's May 18th. I want to say hello to a few folks. We got a big conversation again with Caleb Nelson and Sifted coming up in just a second. Tempest is back with us, tuned in from Texas via LinkedIn. And Greg, we asked Tempest the question about where she'd gotten her name from. She was named after the Huxtable. I can't remember the character's name, but Tempest Bledsoe played the character on the Cosby Show. Remember that?
yeah, I do. I don't remember the character name, but I do remember the name Tempest. Yeah.
So Tempest, welcome back in. Hopefully, Texas, the weather out there is nice today. Clay Phillips, the dog, of course, is back with us via LinkedIn. Great to see you. Stephen Bush, tuned in from Kennesaw. Happy Friday.
K-Town.
That's right. That's near your former neck of the woods, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Or
yeah.
current, former, whatever.
Former tennis partner Steve Bush.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Very
he's the
good.
better half of the tennis partnership. So
Okay. Stephen, we got to get the goods from you on Greg White's tennis game, the champion tennis game. But
nobody's
great,
seen it for quite a while, by the way.
great to see you, Stephen. Kavan is back with us. Kavan, great to see you. He's tuned in via Facebook. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. He says, Kavan, let us know what you've been up to lately. Talk about Peter Bollet is all night and all day, but we got Kevon deserves a very similar nickname for sure. Nazivo tuned in via Facebook. Great to see you here today. I look forward to your perspective on the conversation. Joseph tuned in via LinkedIn. Good afternoon, he says. Hey, let us know where y'all are from. Ken Allen from Nashville. Glad to be listening. Greg, one of our favorite cities and home of hot chicken.
This is Kenny Bob, right? This is Kenny Bob's barbecue sauce.
It could be.
I think so. Yeah.
So Ken, let us know if we're connecting the right dots. Hey, look here. Ramsey Midkiff, the one and only Ramsey Midkiff. Good morning, Supply Chain Now crew coming in from Waxhaw, North Carolina. Great to see you, Ramsey.
Is that how you say it again?
Waxhaw is my, is my stab at it. I might be butchering it. Ramsey, let me know. Ramsey knows I have trouble pronouncing even the word pronouncing. I have a hard time with pronunciation. It's well documented. So great to see you here, Ramsey. Okay, we got to get to welcome everybody. Looking forward to your comments as we work through a great conversation here today. With no further ado, Greg, let's welcome in our guest.
That was quite a bit of ado, so we should have no further of it.
No further ado. Let's welcome in Caleb Nelson, Chief Growth Officer with Sifted. Hey, Caleb, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Scott, Greg. It's so great to be here. I'm excited to be on the show.
We are too.
Glad to have you.
If we can just talk about the James Webb the telescope for the next hour, I would be super happy.
Yeah,
it blows my mind.
Go ahead, Greg.
It's super impressive. I can't remember. I watched some kind of report. It may have been a YouTube thing, but what a feat of engineering that thing is.
Yeah.
It really, we could easily talk about it for the rest of the afternoon. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. We all know all the things that can go wrong. It's amazing what the team has done just to get it in orbit. I think 2 million miles away, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And now we're, as they fine tune the cameras and get all the programming working, I think we're going to see some mind blowing, and we're going to know so much more about the universe. And Caleb, to your point, it boggles my mind, just the sheer science behind it. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, the engineering's unbelievable, but you're totally right. The images that will come out of that will be should be pretty amazing, pretty stunning. Can't wait.
Agreed. So let's remember, Caleb Nelson, Greg, is the James Webb of supply chain. So that's the first time we've used that.
I'll gladly take that title.
I think see into the past and hopefully into the future, because we could really use that.
True. So I got a great segue here because we're going to talk about food first. It is National Gardening Day today, April 14th. And to close the loop here, Greg, you're right. Ken Allen, that is Kenny Bob. He represents probably the founder and owner, Kenny Bob's Sipping and Dipping and Flipping Sauce. I love that. Pre-show, we were talking about fry sauce, Caleb, which is legendary out there in Salt Lake City where you are.
Yep.
And that's where I want to start. We're going to get to supply chain and heavy lifting in a minute. But with National Gardening Day, got 2 questions for you. First off, green thumbs, any green thumbs in your family? And then secondly, this time of year, what's your favorite food to consume?
Oh, man. So the first is easy. It's my mom's a green thumb. She didn't always start out as a green thumb. It wasn't until I was a teenager and we put a garden in the back that she said, I'm going to plant. And when we all were sitting down and asking, what did you plant? Like selfishly, what are we going to enjoy this summer? Tomatoes. That's all she planted. And it was because she didn't want it to be a failure for her first garden.
Oh, really?
And let me tell you guys, I am so sick of picking tomatoes.
Man.
When I turned 18 and I left the house, I made a vow to myself never to pick another dang tomato in my life.
Oh my gosh.
Greg, I have yet to successfully grow one tomato bush in my entire life. And Caleb's over here saying, I'm tired of picking them because they're so successful.
Well, I mean, your controller, Scott, my wife, is outstanding at it. And she grows them in relatively small quantity. And I can verify that they are delicious because I've asked the deer who routinely eat them.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. So we know what Caleb is not looking forward to. So clearly the documented green thumb is his mother. But
Yeah.
what's one food this time of year that you love to put on your plate?
You know what? It's artichokes, oddly enough. If you haven't had a really good, freshly picked steamed artichoke, and my kids love it. It's one food, one vegetable we all sit down and enjoy together as a family. And I realized that the other day, the reason why is because it's just a vehicle for the butter dipping sauce that you typically dip it into. It's all about the butter.
It is
a delivery device.
It is. Caleb, I knew for some reason that you fit right in, and you're just further proving our case here today. Hey, really quick, Greg, we've got Barbara who's driving up to Nashville. Barbara, hey, connect with Ken and get some of that Kenny Bob's sipping, dipping, and flipping sauce. I can't say that enough. Waldemore, great to see you here today, tuned in via LinkedIn. Danny Lewis, tuned in via LinkedIn from Atlanta, GA. And hey, the one and only Rob Tiffany, superstar. He says it's all about the butter. Rob, great to see
Rob
you.
gets it. He gets it.
Okay. So, Greg, really quick, before we move forward with Caleb and talk global supply chain, Greg, what's one thing you're looking forward to this time of year?
Egg salad, always egg salad. And I was reminded of that. I know. I'm a hick, man. I was reminded of that as people, I'm in Hilton Head now, and people who have been at the Masters are regaling me with all of the joys of Augusta.
Right.
And egg salad is one of those things. I've never been to the Masters and had their egg salad because my kids' spring break was always the week of the Masters, and we have just got them all to where their spring breaks are no longer during that week. So soon, that's a bucket list item for me, is egg salad at the Masters.
Greg, anytime the word egg is mentioned, it has changed everything for me in the last 2 weeks. So Caleb, Greg White shared last week,
mistakenly,
growing up as a kid and playing baseball, his nickname was Egg White.
Egg White.
Get the yolk.
Yep.
Oh, my kids.
You went both places. Very nice.
Yes, that's right. I had to. I can feel my oldest daughter giving me the eye roll from her school miles and miles away from that. But hey, it's little things in life. Hey, really quick, Gene Pledger, we couldn't do a live stream without you. I hope this finds you well. Hope you had a great time in Atlanta a few weeks back, and that Alabama is bringing you lots and lots of good weather this Easter weekend. Okay. So Caleb and Greg, we're enjoying ourselves way too much. We got to get down to work. We got to talk global supply chain, some of the cool things that Sifted's doing. But before we get there, there's some big things, as we all know, playing out in the global ecosystem. Big themes of data and sustainability in mind. It's a global obstacle course. Goodness gracious, very challenging environment when it comes to supply chain. So Caleb, where I want to start with you here today is talk to us about a few of the immediate pains that shippers are experiencing. And I think we want to start with a topic that everybody, whether you're in supply chain or not, you're talking about the labor shortage, the labor market. So that's impacting everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's the number one challenge that FedEx and UPS for final mile, like parcel e-commerce delivery, that they're facing right now, let alone what the ocean port employees are facing. There's just not enough employees to be able to deal with the influx of additional freight that's coming through. FedEx had their earnings release call at the end of last year, and they talked about this being a major challenge for them as an organization for the rest of this year. And we're seeing it be displayed back to shippers in a variety of formats. What it's causing is it's causing for delays in transit time. We're, constantly tracking at Sifted packages that go through our customer systems, and we're absorbing that data and looking for areas where errors are happening. And it's not uncommon for some FedEx shippers to be a low 70% on-time delivery percentage range,
wow,
which is unbelievable. Just a couple of, I would say a year and a half ago, it wasn't uncommon to be in the 90 percentile range for on-time delivery. UPS is weathering it a little bit better than FedEx is, and that's a challenge right now that Anybody who is, to your point, Scott, in transportation definitely feels that pain, but outside of transportation too, what customers expect for on-time delivery when they order product and be delivered to their door. They're seeing more delays and more damages happen than ever before.
Damage too.
Well, one of the things you kind of touched on there that I think, well, we're all consumers too, right? That is often lost in the shuffle when you don't get something on time that you're expecting, that pair of socks you need in 2 days or what have you. But the labor force, they're overworked. There's a lot of newness in the labor force. And of course, there's always a training curve. Clearly that's impacting, but folks can't find enough people to work. And Greg, I know you're passionate about the topic of labor. I want to get your take in just a second, but folks in the cheap seats, again, welcome in anyone just joined us here today. We'd love to hear your observations too. We're walking through some of the pains that shippers have. So we'd love to hear from you. Greg, your take on some of the labor remarks that Caleb had.
That's 100% of the start of the problem. I mean, let's just look at this in its initial incarnation. We sent every single worker on the planet home from work for some period of time, all at once, right? Virtually every single person went home at the same time or in a very, very short window. It's hard to restart that. Then we paid people to stay home, in the States at least. And some of those people have figured out the system. Some of those people have just gotten out of the system, right? We have these numbers are maybe a couple weeks old now. 10.6 million available jobs and less than 9 million workers in the workforce available to take them. Actually, it's way less than that because I think we heard a statistic early this week or late last week, Scott. There are 1.7 jobs per person. Per available worker out there right now.
Wow.
So it remains a big issue. I mean, I don't know what everyone is seeing every single day, but restaurants closing early or opening late or, I mean, that's probably the big thing, grocery stores with skeleton crews and all of that sort of thing.
One thing that was interesting in that FedEx release call that I mentioned earlier was they talked about needing to reroute shipments to other facilities that have enough personnel to do the sort seg work and out for delivery of those shipments. They're rerouting as of end of last year, at that time, about 600,000 packages a day to other facilities that have enough personnel, that have enough employees. And that amount you look at those companies, they are efficiency organizations. The more efficient they are, the more profitable they are. And when they are not as efficient as they need to be, profitability goes down. And the pressure, they're not going to simply take that. And their shareholders aren't simply going to take that. Where is that pressure going to go?
Right.
It goes right back to the shipper.
So much to unpack here, Caleb and Greg. I want to share just a couple quick comments here from folks that are tuned in. Salam says it's 7 p.m. here right now. What should I say in this situation? Good evening or good morning? That would be good evening, and great to have you here.
Yeah,
via
operate
LinkedIn.
in your own time zone. It's way too confusing to shift too many time zones because we're in the afternoon, by the way, and Caleb is still in the morning.
That is right.
So.
And that it's the simple things. Kavan says, if we can somehow motivate customers to pick up from lockers and stores, thereby we can reduce labor needs and increase sustainability by reducing transportation needs. Great point there, Kavan. I've used that a couple of times.
Not going to happen. We tried. Even Amazon couldn't get people to do that. And
right.
They can't get us to who could. Right.
That's right. Ken says more and more people are starting businesses. We also co-pack for other people and are seeing a boom in new clients because they're tired of working for someone else. That has also affected the labor market. Excellent point. And then finally, Michael says we've had 18 months straight with numerous open positions posted and not yet filled. Michael, I'd love if you could shed just a little bit of light on the nature of those positions. That'd be interesting. Okay, Caleb, you mentioned as you're talking about the labor market, so much going on there, right? And so much not going on there, unfortunately. But you touched on capacity. Lots and lots of freight out there. We've seen some interesting conversations and data points here in the last week or two. But talk to us about all the shipments that are out there.
It's the explosion of e-commerce growth. And COVID is a major driver to that. That growth was already on upward trajectory that was kind of like a hockey stick.
Mm.
But from COVID, that forced individuals not to be able to go to their favorite stores in person to go buy goods. It drove everybody to have a habit of going online to order their products. And those carriers that are familiar with actually building the networks out that move those shipments to and from point A to point B have done some projection growth on where is growth going to go, and they've built and scaled their network to fit that. Well, COVID came out of left field and completely obliterated that projection. And it doesn't work in terms of like flipping a switch where they can automatically expand their networks overnight.
Right.
And what that means is they're looking out their windows at their warehouses and being like, I am swimming in freight. I can't even see the floor. And what that means is it's, again, added pressure back to the shipper on longer delays. Traditionally, more freight going through a system means a little bit more damage that's happening. And firm prices. Both FedEx and UPS have said that they're going to be pretty firm on prices this year. UPS has a mantra of better, not bigger. And for one of the first times in my 20-year history in transportation, I'm starting to see that bigger as a shipper is not a benefit today. It's almost a hindrance, especially around Q4 and peak season.
That's right. Such an important emphasis on smart business. You look at the railroads, you look at what UPS, you mentioned Caleb's doing, it no longer, to generalize, it's not just getting freight volume and getting that revenue. It's got to be profitable given these challenges you're laying out there, Caleb. Greg, your take here on as we're talking about just the sheer volume out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is. It's huge, and it's gone way, way up. I mean, we were expecting a big lift in e-commerce in 2020, but not near the lift we got. And it has continued to be sustained longer than people expected because remember at first we all thought we'd go home for 2 weeks and everything would be fine. And it's been 2 years. So, and there, you still hear stories of people being released from lockdown, or Philadelphia just again mandated masks indoors. So, I mean, it's been a very volatile environment over the course of the last 2 years. So it's been hard for companies to get their feet under them. I'm curious though, that we're talking about maximize capacity, and Caleb, you're probably aware the Dow transports have gotten demolished just in the month of April. I mean, they're down 14%, 12 to 14%. So, and a lot of the big banks, their analysts are saying it's now inevitable that there will be a freight recession. Do you really think there's that much? And I'm not asking you to predict the stock market, but you see capacity out there. I wonder if they're perceiving the excess capacity or the coming excess of capacity appropriately. I mean, any insight you have on that would be helpful.
No, I don't see that. I mean, from what we see is that, and I believe Ken was his comment earlier of new organizations that are starting up. Yes, perfect here from Ken Allen. New organizations starting up, new people starting new businesses. If you go and talk to any fulfillment warehouse 3PL that does pick, pack, sort, and shipping, they are at max capacity as well. And I don't see that totally happening in the final mile e-commerce last, knocking on your door, leaving the package at the door. That slowdown is not going to happen anytime soon. Not in the slightest.
I think that's a really good point. It depends on what segment you're talking about.
Correct.
And you're right, because I think it was a JP Morgan report. By the way, they're not that good at predicting because their stock's getting crushed today because they missed earnings estimates.
They
were talking about multimodal and trucking and ocean freight, right? So maybe, and I think we have to recognize this is really important when we're in supply chain. We have to recognize that there are so many segments of supply chain that nothing really, except for COVID, impacts every layer of the supply chain. Right? It may impact manufacturing, it may impact distribution, it may impact retail, but maybe it doesn't impact all. So you have to look very closely at that segmentation to see what markets are being impacted. So that's a great take.
Excellent point. And I was going to say, I love Judgment Day with Greg White. Your new nickname, Greg, Judge Dread, because you're going to get a judgment whether you like it or not. Okay, Caleb, I appreciate you offering your perspective, your data-driven perspective there, because y'all have got your finger on the pulse for sure. Really quick, Michael, let's see. He was talking about all the open positions for so long at his organization, everything from support departments, he says, like IT and finance, to brokers and even broker assistants. So a mix of tech, senior level, entry level, you name it. And Eric, good morning to you from Ecuador via LinkedIn. Great to have you here, Eric. We'd love to hear what you're seeing. All right. One final topic we want to touch on before we kind of shift gears and talk more about Sifted and really your journey as a founder, Caleb. Regional carrier issues. So that could probably mean a bunch of different things, but what are some things you are seeing?
To piggyback on labor concerns and on excess capacity, the biggest change that we're seeing for 2022 and I'm predicting for 2023 is shippers understanding that they no longer can single source with one individual carrier. Those days of I'm going to push all of my freight and all of my volume to FedEx or all of it to UPS, negotiate the best discounts possible, put you at an added position of risk. And what's happened is during where all of that comes to kind of a crossroads is right at peak season at Q4. And FedEx and UPS have come to some of their larger customers and said, you are capped on how many shipments we're willing to take from you on a daily basis,
right?
Especially at our peak. And if you can imagine being in that position in Q4 at your busiest time and having that type of limitation put on your business, it's not just, I don't get my shipments out the door. That's a growth limiter to your business as a whole.
Right.
And how shippers are getting around that is by diversifying. They're adding a little bit of complexity to their distribution model, but they're also mitigating risk to a great degree. And where they're realizing that they need to be looking at it is how much can I peel from my FedEx or UPS contract to give to a couple of regional carriers, and what other alternative options can I have in order to be able to do that? So we've seen explosive growth from regional carriers like OnTrack and Lone Star and LaserShip that have taken on this new business. They are typically putting a moratorium. Those regional carriers are putting a moratorium on accepting new business around Q4 because they're busy as well. So there's added risk there in not diversifying for a shipper. And being able to do so and working with a regional carrier prior to Q4 is going to be absolutely key.
Greg, what's some of the things that you heard there from Caleb?
Great relief, for one. I mean, FedEx and particularly UPS have been in too much control of what gets delivered to the home for a long time. And they have, the reason that businesses like Caleb's, yours exist is because people feel like they're being treated unfairly by their parcel carriers. Many firms audit, many firms optimize, right? And that's what you guys do, is you do that in a technologically and data-driven fashion to help them optimize. But really, it's to overcome the unknowns that can even come from a contract carrier like that. And so I think it's good that companies are diversifying, and there has been an incredible proliferation of these smaller, more regional carriers. In the tech world, I talk to them all the time. So, and because they are capped, there will be more, and ultimately there will be consolidation. I mean, look, let's face the fact that the reason that Amazon even has a logistics division is because way back in 2014, FedEx, UPS, and the Postal Service failed them during peak season. They really had no choice, and yet it took yet another crisis 8 years later for so many of us to recognize that we need to diversify even further.
Yep.
So I think it's a good thing. It really is good for the market. It checks the big players, and they clearly need it. Scott, I go all the way back to Carol's "let them eat cake" kind of comment when she
Right.
first took over UPS.
I remember.
And basically take it or leave it. This is how we're going to do things. And that they're even doing that to their largest shippers tells you what kind of chance you've got as a small and medium business.
Excellent point. And, some of what this drives as well is more innovation and more democratization in industry. And while Uber Freight and Roadie are really big examples of that, but started small, it's creating lots of opportunity for folks, as also going back to Ken pointed out. So interesting times, certainly in global supply chain and with entrepreneurship. And that's where we're going next. Caleb, before we do, I want to give you the last word. We covered a wide range of issues, kind of the painting a picture for what the Sifted team is working through and helping others work through. Any final word on kind of what we're seeing out there?
It's all about the data. I would say that it's all about the data. Long are the days, those are long gone, where you can come to the carrier and say, give me what I want, or I'm pulling my business and I'm going to give it to this other carrier. That is an emotional response. That is not a data-driven response. And if you go to the carriers with that kind of a response right now, Greg, to your comment about Carol, with UPS, they'll say, see you later. Wish you the best of luck. And so what that means is that it requires for shippers to have a very good understanding of their own data, the story that that data is telling them, because everybody's data set tells a different story. And a lot of cases, it's not necessarily UPS and FedEx just simply taking advantage of a situation by any means. I think that they're in a really tough spot. What it is it's about how can I as a shipper and as a partner with UPS or a partner to FedEx be a better fit to them, work on my data to be able to say, I need concessions in these areas, but this is what I'm going to be doing internally to be a better fit to you, and have it be a data-driven perspective, I think is what it's all about. So if you're a shipper and you're looking for feeling that pressure and looking for ways to be able to alleviate that pressure, the answer is in the data.
Man, help me help you. Help me help you. I love, Caleb. That's right. Show the money, but really knowing yourself, knowing your organization, knowing your business to the point where you can help your suppliers. I love that key point there. Really quick.
Well, even if you don't help your suppliers, which certainly you will do, help yourself. Right? At least know your business that well. Right.
And help that would help your employees, your team members. It hopefully takes some stress off their day to day. Mike Griswold has that great firefighting quote. What?
Yes.
Greg,
don't
what is it?
Reward the arsonist.
Yeah,
right? Don't
reward the arsonist, which is kind of a theme that we're hearing from Caleb. Really quick, Dr. Rhonda is back with us, one of our favorites here. She got her break in the schedule to tune in. Hey, how about that? You make our day. Great to see you out in Arizona, Dr. Rhonda. And Michael talks about a large organization he worked for back in the 2000s, had UPS, and at the time, Airborne Express as their carriers to avoid the issues of capping shipments and to avoid the labor strikes that hit them in the late 90s. Good point there. A little history lesson. Okay.
Yeah, that is good. And I mean, it is, I think maybe, Caleb, small and medium businesses, they haven't had the sophistication that some of these larger companies like Michael worked for, and they kind of got caught on the back foot, right?
Yep,
and
absolutely.
To Ken's point, there will be more of them if they're not careful, caught on the back foot, because they're not aware of the risk that is inherent in the supply chain.
Yeah,
so
100%.
As I've told many people, my first lesson in supply chain was assume everyone will fail you and have a plan B for that.
Plan C, plan D.
Well, these days, I think you really do need to diversify that much, even to the point, Caleb, you're making around these regional carriers. Those are plan C's and D's, whatever.
Yep.
The whole alphabet.
Once you know your business, right? As both of y'all are pointing out. And by the way, Caleb, I'm not sure what interstate or what road is in front of you there.
Yeah. Can you see that from the reflection?
I love it. We're seeing
it wasn't
supply chain happen.
Yeah, it's exactly correct. I mean, it's in real time right here. If it wasn't a cloudy day, you'd be able to see the Wasatch Mountain Range and some of the mountains that are there. It's a beautiful view.
Next time, Caleb Nelson. Next time. Okay. So let's talk about Caleb Nelson for a minute. You were a co-founder of Sifted and the business that came before Sifted. I know that y'all have got quite the story as y'all continue to grow and do more. Let's talk about what the business does, but more importantly, maybe as a starter, what was your why, Caleb? Why did you create what became Sifted?
Well, I have a personal why, and that is a legacy. I want to know that fundamentally the transportation space that I operated in, specific to data analytics on the final mile and e-com and LTL, is different after my time in it than before my time. And I think that is a great motivator. Everybody needs a personal why, and that's mine. Why we started Sifted from a tactical reason is we looked around at a lot of other companies that were providing data, and it was auditing firms that provide a post-mortem report, which is,
Right.
Scott, Greg, congratulations. You spent, $250,000 with UPS this last quarter. Good job.
Yeah.
Provide nothing else.
Right.
So there was, along with the auditing services, but shippers were desperate for needing more data, needing to understand their data, needing to understand what their businesses were doing in ways that they can be able to improve. And we've talked a lot about external factors. We've talked about carrier capacity, labor issues. We've talked about how carriers are dealing with rates. But there is just the same amount of operational cost savings that happen within a business's four corners and in their warehouse, that if they did some things differently operationally, they would make just as much of an impact from a cost saving standpoint, an efficiency standpoint, a customer expectation standpoint than they would ever make dealing with FedEx or UPS externally. So we saw that there really wasn't an option on a company that really provided strong data and could do it in simplistic software and gave it to the shipper to do it themselves. I think that's a really interesting part, which is normally you'd have to raise your hand and say, I'm going to go to a consultant, or I'm going to hire a data team internally to be able to make this work. A consultant is great, but it's hey, you don't have the information, Mr. Customer, I do. What we noticed is shippers are being more sophisticated now than they've ever been before. Let's give them better tools so that they can do it themselves and empower them so that they can make better decisions. And that's the whole reason why we created Sifted.
I love it. I bet Greg loves it.
Yeah, I do love it. I think that, the name is perfect. Basically sift through all of that information and find the value and present it, right?
That's exactly correct. Whether it's operationally or externally with your partner carrier, there is, needles hidden in that haystack, and it's hard to find it on your own. We see a lot of individuals use Excel. Excel's a great tool. Don't get me wrong.
Second. What is this you speak of, Caleb? This starts with
no one in supply chain has ever heard of Excel, Caleb.
It's this little unknown tool that very few people have heard. No, it's used so heavily that we call it being trapped in Excel hell. And it takes, in a lot of cases, shippers hours upon hours to massage the data in Excel just to get it to a spot where they can make actionable insights to it.
Let me just ask a quick question. Did y'all have that same in it before I became an entrepreneur? In every office I ever worked in, including in the military, there was always that one individual that was so proud of the Excel macros that he or she could build, and they confused the heck out of everyone else.
They were the only ones that understood it.
Yes.
The data hoarder. Yes. That's what I call those people. Yeah.
So, hey, right. God bless them. We all need all kinds of different types, but man, they lost everybody else in terms of what it did and how to get to, whatever output. And that kind of is what I'm picturing in my brain, Caleb. Excel is great, but we can't use it for everything, including like driving your sprinkler systems and moving, freight across the world. There's better ways. There are better ways.
Yeah.
Really quick, Caleb, I want to circle back. Now that you've kind of shared your whys, both personal and professional, you've kind of shared a little bit about the mission behind Sifted. I want to circle back for kind of a couple of examples maybe. But before we do, I want to say hello. This is Josh. Josh is an undergrad senior studying supply chain management. Appreciate that feedback and great to have you here, Josh. Steven's like us. He's watching what's driving past right in front of you.
I am so focused, Scott. I didn't even notice that. Really. Now I feel like I've seen maybe a semi drive by since you say something, and I'm thinking, did he stage that?
Man, if Caleb wasn't such a good speaker, I'd be just dialed in on what's past him there. But Asim is with us here today. Man, bunch of certifications there. Thanks for dropping by. And then finally, Dr. Rhonda says helping each other is simply a win-win all the way around. Excellent point there. Okay, so getting back to Sifted, and Greg, I'm glad you mentioned it because that's the first thought. It's like making biscuits, and you're sifting the flour and you're baking powder, whatever goes in the biscuits. I make terrible biscuits, I've been told. But Caleb, talk to us about a couple of examples. Kind of bring it down to a couple of examples that anyone could wrap their head around.
Yeah, so I think to some of the points that we've talked about earlier, adding in a new carrier. If I bring in a new carrier, how much can I peel away from my existing contract without decimating it? Because I probably need that existing carrier. How much can I give to that new carrier without decimating my existing contract? What weight breaks, service levels should I be giving that freight over to? All of that is a giant math problem. And it's typically, like we talked about, solved in Excel. But there is some value of saying, look, Excel is great. It's not a transportation tool. I need a system that can go through and literally in a sandbox environment, re-rate those packages as if it had gone with that new carrier to tell me exactly how much I would be able to save and improve on my transit time. So that what if question, breaking away from kind of the traditional audit, like congratulations, you spent $250,000 last quarter.
Right.
And getting into predictive, what if I change this? That is a universal question for all of the Sifted software, which is, it can be adding a new carrier, adding a distribution center. Hey, I'm noticing that I'm shipping a lot to zone 5, 6, 7, and 8. It's costing me a lot of money and it's staying in transit really long. What if I shipped more locally, which gets into the sustainability aspect of things and reduces the fuel that I use? The Sifted software does all of that, all the way down to box size. Hey, I need to improve and get rid of some of the dimensionalization dim fees that I'm getting. What if I shipped out on this box size for this SKU? Those kind of analytic works, which are typically very difficult to solve on your own, that's what we solve every day in the software.
At our fingertips. Is that right?
Yep. Go.
Okay. Love it. Greg, what'd you hear there?
Well, I think that immediately, Scott, I thought of a company called Pacurate, which, Caleb, you probably ought to take a look at. They, not individual SKUs, but the accumulation of an order. There's probably some opportunity for you guys to work together there. Just on that point. But I think that what's really important is I just keep coming back to the SMB, the small and medium business aspect of this, where some larger companies have built this for themselves or through a large technology carrier or whatever and customized it heavily to their business. This gives access to every business, right? This is a Main Street kind of application and gives access to every business to have kind of level the playing field with their huge partners out there to have the same technology or the same capabilities to be able to do the things that is helping the Amazons and the Walmarts and some of these other companies be so super efficient and effective in their last mile delivery. So I'm a huge fan of small beats big. I love it when companies come in and start helping smaller companies rather than go after the whales right out of the gate, because there are so many of them. You test the market. They are not less complex. They may be less sophisticated, but their business is not less complex. It's basically a microcosm of a Walmart or whoever they might compete with. So a solution like this is a huge lever for companies like that to understand first their profitability and then to optimize it as they progress. So I love it.
Excellent.
Who's really a good example, Caleb, of somebody you've worked with? I mean, if you can share names.
So one is a company called Beddy's, Beddys. If you don't have little kids, you might not know who they are. If you have little kids, you probably know who they are. But what they created is a really cool product that goes. If you think of like a sleeping bag, and sheets that go on a comforter on your bed and combine them into one. It is a comforter that has a zipper around it, and you make your bed by zipping it up.
Whoa.
It's great for little kids. And with 4 kids of my own, trust me, I know, because I've got them. They've been a great customer, and they have exploded in growth. Started, to your point, Greg, as a startup on a really SMB side. And we're dealing with a lot of logistic challenges on their growth. How do I be a better shipper? How do I be the best version of Betty's that I possibly can be? We've been working with them for a while and significantly not only reduce their cost, I think that's just a given, but help them scale as an organization and make better choices along the way. A lot of companies will make those decisions out of gut instincts and not out of data that backs it up. So to be able to model it out first, get it down to a specific, if I do this, this is how much it's going to save me and improve X, then I'm going to go implement it. That's the way to do it.
Yep, I'm with you. And by the way, Betty's, and that's folks, that's BEDDYS.com. They're offering a birthday BOGO.
Oh, there
so
you go.
Check that
Whose
out.
birthday?
I don't know. It could be organizations. I'll have to get Malcolm and the research team on that question there, Craig. Really quick, T-Squared, who holds down the fort for us on YouTube, says, gotta love the supply chain management, logistics nourishment. I'm sure a live broadcast from Worldport and Memphis World would definitely give insight into the shipping issues, UPS via versus FedEx. Excellent point, as always. Josh, we'll try to get back to this question. He's talking about an alternative to Excel, especially if you don't want to create those technological skill barriers. That's a great question. We'll try to get back to that. And Fatima, great to have you here today via Bangladesh. Okay, so speaking of resources, Caleb, I love, I think Greg and I both really dig the Sifted story. And I love when organizations take the time to invest in resources that folks are going to gain help from without even having to, become a customer. They may become a customer very well, but there's 2 resources that your team is pointing out to us. One of them is about making a greener last mile. You've touched on sustainability a couple of times. Talk about this ebook.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me because I think in transportation, we tend to think of sustainability as a nice to have. And a lot of individuals are like, look, I'm just trying to get shipments out my door. And now you're talking to me about sustainability and doing all of this other stuff. As a consumer, we think of going green typically as either it's going to cost more. Like if I'm going to go be a consumer and be green, I'm going to go buy a Tesla and not pay, gas prices. But my break even on that is not for another, 10, 15 years. Solar panels on your house is no different. You're going to break even after 15 years based on normal house usage. Transportation is one of those rare industries where sustainability and cost reduction is a 1-for-1. Whatever you do in one, you're going to have it in the other. So if you ship more locally, that reduces your total average cost per package because you're not shipping to higher zones, you're shipping more locally. If you're able to reduce your box sizes, you're avoiding dimensionalization charges as well as additional waste. So there's a lot of really important things that are happening in transportation where if you're more sustainable as an organization, you're more efficient and you're going to be more cost effective. The driver of that has really been from consumers. We polled about 500 of our customers and their customers as well, and they mentioned that 90% of them wanted to see a sustainability option at time of checkout when you go to buy some product. About 80% said they would be willing to wait a little bit longer for delivery if it was a more sustainable way to ship it. So it's being driven internally, and that ebook gives 5 easy ways for a shipper to be more effective at being a more sustainable organization.
Love that. And folks, we have dropped the link to that, the Greener Last Mile. You can click on that and download that ebook that Caleb is talking about. And by the way, hello, Anita, tuned in from Boston, Massachusetts, one of our favorite cities, the home of Kelly Barner, the one and only.
Yeah.
So Anita, great to see you here today. Okay, so Greg, everyone's looking for a greener last mile. We've talked a lot about transportation logistics today. let me give a quick shout out. Yesterday, I spent some time with Joey, a professional truck driver with Southeastern Freight yesterday. And not only has he been driving for 8 years, and he's a new U.S. Navy veteran, but his father's been driving for 30 years, and they get together and they can talk shop about. I said, Joey, you and your dad got to write a book. I can only imagine the stories that the two of y'all have. And by the way, Joey said we need to create a campaign to bring back the air brake. Joey said, so folks, help me. Let's create a new campaign here.
You mean the horn?
Yeah, that's right. The air horn. Sorry.
I still do it. I'm like a 6-year-old on the highway. I still do it.
I'm with you. Okay. So the greener
With
last
tinted
mile.
windows, it's become really hard, Scott. I just want to say, helps if you have a sunroof.
Well, I think if you could slow down instead of zipping around those trucks, I could just see you driving left and right through Hilton Head, the beautiful Hilton Head, which is gorgeous at this time of year. Let's talk about not just a greener last mile, but also a more profitable last mile, Caleb. That's a second resource that you and the team are offering up here today, right?
Yeah, so it really it culminates to what we've been discussing, which is, carrier capacity issues, labor shortage issues, regional carriers, sustainability. It all puts pressure back on the shipper to reduce their costs in a variety of creative ways. And we talked about, negotiating or working with your partner carrier, not out of an emotional response, but out of a data-driven response. Mm-hmm. What are some of those levers you can pull? That's what's found in that profitability standpoint of ways you can focus on being a more profitable shipper.
Love that. All right. So Greg, Caleb has thrown two resources out there, greener last mile, also more profitable last mile. Your thoughts?
Well, I think we as consumers probably need to stop thinking of sustainability as an additional cost. I know we do. I still do.
Yep.
But it's circular, literally and figuratively circular, in that if you are using, for instance, something that produces carbon, less fuel, then you do inherently lower your cost. It might change your business and there might be a cost to do it, but I believe that there are and will continue to be ways to make those types of changes more and more effective. Lots of people are not going to go to, I've looked at the Tesla shingles, right? I'm not going to pay $44,000 or whatever it is for a roof plus installation, but because the return on investment, to Caleb's point, is 30 years. If that starts to get down into the single digits, which it will over time, because every company has to expand their market reach, then we'll see more and more of that happening. So I think that's one thing that I see that's really important. And the other is that as companies start to be able to have the visibility, we've talked to companies, as I said, Caleb, that do exactly what you described. Here's what you spent. But now if they can take that, here's what you spent, here's why you spent it, and here's how you could spend less, because we know there are a lot of traps, maybe not intentional, but whatever. There are a lot of traps in terms of, like you talked about, dim weight, whatever, in surcharges, even for last mile. You don't find out that it cost you $400 to ship that $400 item at $420, after you receive $420, until after the shipment is complete.
Yep.
So if you can give them insight and predictive ability in that, then they can know, as you've described, when they ought to use a separate carrier to get some of those items delivered. And to me, that is found lost money.
Love it.
Yeah, it's being the best shipper, the best version of yourself that you can be, and that's what we're all about. It's all about maximization and profitability and efficiency.
Love it. Okay, man, I felt like I've learned so much here today beyond the Sifted story and beyond Caleb's personal why and professional why and all the cool things they're doing. We've learned about Betty's. That could be game changing for many folks. We've learned that Tesla makes shingles. This is new to me. I have to check this out, Greg.
Oh, really?
I've been so caught up in what Elon Musk is doing with SpaceX, I guess. But folks, to folks that are tuned in, again, we've got the links to both of these free resources, the greener last mile and the more profitable last mile, in the comments. Y'all check those out. Thank you, Salam. Very accurate assessment. I take what James Webb of Supply Chain, Caleb Nelson says. I take it right to the bank. Greg, I don't know about you, but
Well, that's the
Salam
beauty of what
agrees.
they're doing. You can literally take it to the bank, or probably just have it shipped to the bank for you.
That's right. Okay, so Caleb, as we start to wrap here, and we're going to let you go. I'm sure you got plenty of stuff to get to here on this Thursday afternoon. But how can folks connect with you, and how can they connect with Sifted and learn a lot more?
Sifted.com. I think that's a really easy one. Sifted.com. And I'm sure there'll be links down below, but they can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm a big user on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I think it's a great platform for us as supply chain experts to communicate with each other. Supply chain is one of those unique things that the industry is massive, but the people that work in it, relatively small. And I'm really grateful for LinkedIn and the platform that it provides for us to be able to communicate with each other. I'm always on there. Add me, and you'll see what's latest and greatest have happened, and it's Sifted.
I love it. And also to kind of further your point, we've got a duty to inform the consumers. There's a lot of misconceptions around global supply chain, and the media has covered a lot more in the last couple of years, but we got to get the right story out there and how it really works. So Caleb, I appreciate your work there, and great to have you here today. Congrats on all of Sifted's growth and success. And we look to having you back again really soon.
Scott, Greg, it's been awesome to be on. Thank you.
All right. You bet. We've been talking with Caleb Nelson, Chief Growth Officer with Sifted. Have a great rest of your day. Greg, man, I knew it was going to be good. We've been fortunate to have a couple pre-show conversations with Caleb and his team. Big thanks to Grayson and others. Love the DNA in their culture. I love how they're enabling other organizations and leaders to not only run a tighter ship, but to get to know themselves and their business so much better. And it's like the art of the possible, but via tech. It's like quantifying what that art of the possible is, right?
Yeah, I think, I think the lesson here is, if you are an SMB shipper, you got to get your shipping together and internally to be that, what Caleb was describing, that best version of your shipper self, right? You have to understand your own business before you can project that out to your trading partners and be that best trading partner to your fellow trading partners. So, and this enables you to do it in such a simple fashion. To one of the points that I think someone raised around Excel, or not wanting to leap the technological hurdles, right, of upskilling. Technology isn't that way. And so much small business technology is built to lay out those hurdles so you don't have a big lift to get to the next level of technology. In fact, it takes a lot of the confusion that you and Caleb described with that data hoarder who puts out a 7,000 tab
macro
or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. And it puts that all in the background and just shows you the valuable data that you need to make your judgments from and your decisions from. So I think the perception of what technology is today, particularly technology focused on SMBs, needs to shift in a lot of places, because it is built to produce the result. I call it appifying the supply chain, right? As robust as any enterprise technology, as simple as an app. And that's how you get small business over that hurdle.
Okay. I love it. And back to those master Excel users. If my dear friend Troy Boozer is tuned in here today.
That's right.
I know the first thought that come to his mind, we called it getting factorized, but love you, Troy Boozer. Barbara says, thank you all. Finishing up my last class for my probably Master of Science in supply chain logistics in a week. And this is a great way to learn new things. Barbara, hey, thanks for stopping by, and make sure you contribute everything you know and your experiences and your journey. Love to have you here. Jenny Patzloff, data hoarder, such a thing of the past. Data transparency and democratized data is key. Jenny,
amen.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
People, Greg, we'll wrap in just a minute. I've been around folks, you probably have too, that have weaponized data, right? Used it to hit others over the head with and kind of get their way, so to speak. and it's not a good thing for culture. It's not a good thing for the business. It's important to know your data, but man, use it, help others with it, help others understand it so we can, as a team, make better decisions. One last thought. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, you made me think of, we had this report, and I've worked with so many companies that have transformed their supply chains, that you see it over and over again. This report that describes how you hurt the company most recently, right? And instead, what they're doing with Sifted and so many of these SMB focused technologies are doing is they're saying, this is how you can help the company today, right now.
Yep, I love it. I love it, and I love Caleb's story, man. Dripping with passion,
Yeah,
I love the personal while,
lives
the
it. You
professional
can tell.
while. Yep, that's right. All right, a couple quick comments. We're out of here. Stephen Bush is talking about Marty Groover, author of Speed of Advance. It's going to be their keynote speaker for Heidelberg, U.S. and Canada Customer Summit in May. So check that out. He offered up the link. Thank you for sharing, Stephen. And I'm coming to you, Stephen, for the goods on Greg's championship tennis game. Kim Winter, the legendary Kim Winter. Kim Winter is with us here today from Dubai. Great to see you, Kim. Keep the good stuff coming. I love your Ukraine coverage. And of course, we're big fans of your podcast as well. Okay.
He keeps us dialed in to what's going in the Middle East and Southeast Asia as well.
That's right.
So that's fantastic.
Okay, folks, hopefully you enjoyed this conversation as much as Greg and I have. Be sure to check out sifted.com. Check out those free resources. They're there for you to use and apply and improve your journey. Be sure to connect with Caleb Nelson and really the whole Sifted team. Greg, always a pleasure. One last thought. We talked, I don't want to throw stones, but it's interesting to see generalized media kind of be late to the supply chain story. I saw a headline, a big established media was breaking a late breaking story that Amazon was UPS's biggest customer and competitor. And it was headline news. And it was like, kind of illustrated the point that we've got to, there's lots
welcome to the party. Yeah.
Right. But hey, such is life. Folks, hopefully you enjoyed our time here today. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful close to your week. Most importantly, hey, be like James Webb of Supply Chain or Caleb Nelson. Do good, give forward, and be the change that's needed. And on that note, we see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.